Shut up and sit down.
I'm totally gonna go vegan this season.
My mind's on fire, so I ride my bike. I'm riding harder than a hurricane.
You shaved your legs? Does shaving your legs really make a difference? Man, shaved legs make such a difference. Look at that guy with the hairy legs.
I saw the old you for a second there. My mother made me.
You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Legrand,
Sir Ian Gibson,
Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Turing. Optional listening required.
And get that runner's high.
I'm totally going vegetarian this season. Eating is cheating, man. I think protein's really gonna help me out in my season. Hey man, do you have a gel?
That runner's high. Babe, I think I found what it means to be alive.
Oh, wow, you actually know how to work on bikes? Do you need help with that, sweetheart? No, I just wear grease-stained overalls for fun. I might be 5'4", but I can handle that better than you can handle a twisty road without hitting yourself.
All right, welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm here with Lance.
It's your birthday.
Freaking Hepler.
You didn't start the podcast like you normally do.
It's
It's a special song.
I know, but like, I want to hear this song.
Make a wish real quick. We're here to cheer you on. You're the star in your own mind.
Star in your own mind.
Star in your own mind. Lance, you're sometimes awesome. One of a kind dude with you around. The good times never end. Let's raise our glasses, a monster. Toast to your day. You deserve all the smoke that's coming your way. Happy birthday, that's the vibe. We're singing it loud and we're feeling alive. So blow out your 84 candles and make a big
All right, I can't tell exactly what they're saying.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I am Jake Von Turing, and I'm here with Lance friggin' Hepler.
Lance
and his
friggin'
birthdayness.
Hepler on my friggin' birthday.
You hadn't introduced yourself. I was like, wait a minute, something's missing.
Yeah, well,
Lance, happy birthday, Jake.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you,
You're
everybody. Thank you.
80.
I feel
80.
I mean,
One?
I'm
81?
physically 55 and
Okay.
like emotionally like 14.
Okay.
and 3/4.
And 3/4.
You know, all the latest research points to if the more birthdays you get, then you're more likely to live longer.
Thank
Why?
you.
It's a good
Jesus,
thing.
Ian. Appreciate that.
And to his right,
Yeah, me. Hello.
Sir Ian Gibson.
Sorry.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing, Governor?
I'm all right, mate. You're all right.
I'm going to hop over one other person and come to the one and only Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys look older today.
55.
You look older.
55.
I was going to guess older. I was going to guess a lot older. I'm really glad I didn't guess.
There's been a lot of sun damage on this face, and I haven't done a thing about it.
Do you wear sunscreen?
Not usually.
You got to throw a little on there. Like
Me too.
the
I just
thing
try to
about
cover up.
cycling and sunscreen is such a horrible thing because like you put it on your bald spot and then it just runs into your eyes and you look like you've been crying for about a month and a half.
Yeah, that's
tough.
About right.
He doesn't have a bald spot.
I don't have a bald
Bastard.
spot.
I got two of them for you.
Thanks.
I got enough for both of us.
Hey, guys, we got somebody else here with us today. Pretty cool person. Kind of fond of her. It's all right. Camryn Berglin, how are you?
Good.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Finally got you to join us after, 3 years and change?
Something like that.
All right. Well, Camryn is going to join us for all of the fun and festivities today, and we'll tell you why here in just a little bit. Do you guys should we just kind of introduce her a little bit right now? You guys
let's
have
do
some
that.
questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
we should roll with Camryn.
All right. Let's go ahead and start. Camryn, what brings you to all this dialed madness? What is your part with dialed? Why don't you
Yes.
tell everybody?
3 years and some change ago, I walked into a bike shop and demanded a job. And
Nice. work.
She's She's not kidding.
And Jake told me one time that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I was the squeaky wheel for quite some time. So I've been working at the lab as a mechanic for 3 years-ish. Jake, in return, threw a jersey at me and told me that I had to race if I was going to work at the shop. And
Yes.
Fresh off a knee surgery, too, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, 5 months after knee surgery. And bikes have become my personality now. So
you just walked in the shop. You didn't know him.
I didn't know him.
You wanted to work in a
We
bike
kind of
shop.
had a mutual friend.
Yes. And
okay.
the gal I moved in with when I moved to Vancouver knew Jake, was on the team.
Well, no,
affiliated.
her dad is a friend, and he
Okay.
rides with us from time to
Okay.
time, and she knew of us. So, yeah. It was just
And you
kind
were
of a
like,
small
I
world.
kind of want to work in a bike shop. And she was like, try this. Go.
Yeah.
Cool.
I had worked at REI and kind of had started working at the bike shop in there, and then
Nice.
moved to Vancouver and really wanted to keep wrenching on bikes. I didn't like the customer service side as much at
Yeah.
a bigger corporation.
At Dialed, you get to do it all.
Yes.
You're kind of stuck doing it all.
You get to do it all.
Yeah.
No choice.
Yes. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that story.
So, concurrent to that, you were going to school,
yes.
and you finished up that said schooling and did some more schooling. What are you doing there?
So I got my bachelor's degree in kinesiology. So same as Jake.
Ah.
And then finished that. Didn't want to go to PT school because it's expensive.
Yeah.
And loved working with our juniors. I had coached a bit in the past and went into education. So I just yesterday actually finished up most of the requirements for my master's degree in education. And I've been teaching at a high school, PE and health, and it's been an absolute
cool.
riot. The kids are insane and just the absolute best.
Nice.
She goes in there and handles her business too. I hear a lot of fun little stories. It's kind of cool. I kind of want to be a fly on the wall and go check that out one of these
What
days.
school are you working with?
I don't know. Should she say that?
Should I say that?
I don't know.
No, never mind.
Yeah, maybe not.
I think
Top secret stuff,
probably,
you know?
probably
Well,
okay.
School in the area.
It's
School
top
in the
secret
area.
stuff because she's getting ready to go do some top secret stuff. Camryn, what was one of the cool ways that you were able to get most of your schooling paid for?
Yes, I when I started my bachelor's degree, I did not want student debt.
Smart.
So I sold my soul to the United States government and joined the National Guard. I've been in for about 5 years. I'm a combat engineer, so I get to play with C4, blow stuff up.
Oh, wow.
Like you do.
Yes, it's dumb. I call it dumb boy fun. And it's, yeah, again,
Remember that
just
squeaky wheel comment? It wasn't that. It was more like, crap, I don't want her to blow me up.
yeah. So I'm taking off here in a couple weeks to go pay the dues, get some more money from them, and go hang out in Africa for a little bit.
Going to go out big time. That's kind of like your farewell, like little last hurrah with them. So for 10 months, you're going to be pretty much gone.
Yes.
I don't know if you
10
can say
months.
where you're going or what you're doing or any of that fun stuff, but yeah, she's being deployed. So we wanted to have her on the podcast before she took off, just so we can finally catch up with her and talk about some stuff. So
Talk to me when there's still joy in my heart.
I think it'll be a good experience.
Yeah.
cool. Well,
Camryn has been an absolute pleasure to have around the shop. She's been very good. Just whether you could think she could like handle her business or not. One of my first experiences with her, I was in the bike shop and I was asked to kind of help show her a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm kind of a mechanic, I'm not nearly as good as Camryn is now or as the other mechanics, but I was showing her how to do something on one of the bikes. And she turned to me and said, "Are you mansplaining me right now?" And again, she was like 21 years old at this time, or 20?
Probably 20,
She was
yeah.
probably 20 years old. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I am. And I think you're going to do just fine here. And I think I just stood up and walked away. Okay, she's going to be fine. I'm not going to worry about Camryn anymore because she will figure this all out. So it has been that kind of relationship ever since. It's been fantastic. She has raced a bunch. She has been great at the lab. So we're super happy to have Camryn here.
cool.
We've probably talked about her a fair amount on this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't listen to the podcast, so she wouldn't
I
know
would
that.
know.
and rightfully so. All right. Well, I'm sure we're going to have a lot more to talk about with her. Let's go ahead and get into some backpedaling. Matt, would you like to get us started?
Yes. I have not biked hardly at all. So Blasphemy can be a pretty quick back pedal.
This is your transition season, right?
This is my transition season. I need to get on some bike and I need to do some brickwork and stuff like that because there's the chance of doing a triathlon in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I can blame the weather, right? It's rainy today. No, it's decent outside.
It's been great weather all week.
I got to get on the bike. Sorry.
Let's go
move
for a
on.
ride.
Just move on. Just move on from me. I've got nothing.
Cameron, what you been up to this last week? Have you done any bike riding, bike racing, anything fun on two wheels?
Went to Post Canyon a couple times, did some fun mountain bike laps. Finishing up school means that takes precedence, unfortunately. So last time I raced was 2 weeks ago, and we'll see how many more I get.
Which race was it that you did?
That was PIR.
Okay.
The first PIR race. Won the Cat 4-5 race in a little sprint finish. Road racing is tough because you can't self-select, and I probably, not to blow my own horn, but shouldn't be racing in the 4-5 women category there.
Yeah. Did you feel safe in there? That's my reason not to race.
She was very
the 4-5.
safe because she was just pretty much off the front doing her own thing.
Just go off the front.
I was off the front for a little bit, and then the rest of the time I was talking smack. Which I was like, ladies, we are not here for a zone 2 group ride. Let's pick up the pace a little. So
Perfect.
I haven't been back because I need to get my attitude in check before I go on another group ride on a Monday night.
Sweet. Gibbo, how about you, bud?
Yeah, my Sunday was definitely not a Zone 2 group ride. It was a huge group ride. I went out and did the Gorge Gravel Race out in Dufa, Oregon, which is a big event. It's huge. There's Lance, about 900 people there?
900 racers. There was about 200 in the big, about 400 in the medium, and about 300 in the small. So a lot of people.
Yeah.
That doesn't add up to 900, but don't check my math.
Don't double check the math.
Something like that. I came 28th in the medium, which was okay for an old man, I guess.
28th overall.
Yeah.
Out of almost 400.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Second in my field, made podium, but you want the race recap?
Sure.
I can make it.
Why not?
Sure. I'll play Lance.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Actually, the hardest part of the race was the first 5 miles. Like, as soon as the neutral car pulled away, we were on the road for a little way, and then we turned left up this hill, and it was probably the most significant hill on the course, apart from the finish.
It was the longest climb of the day. Yeah.
And I just watched the lead group right away from me. My teammate, John Hatfield, was in it. My teammate, Chris Surratt, was in it. My teammate, Tom Counts, was there. Gary Cornels was there. And I just watched them sort of gradually fade off into the distance.
Were you putting in a decent effort?
Yeah, I was maxed out. And at the top of that climb, it didn't really flatten out. It was just like a very gradual drag uphill. So it took me a long time to recover from that. And I really thought that was it. That was the race. But as things turned out, we got through a little technical section and I ended up with a fast group of guys, like about 6 or 7 of us that worked together. And I started feeling better, way better. And I was kind of feeling like I was one of the stronger guys when we got over to the rollers and the little uphill sections. And sure enough, as the miles went by, the group got smaller. And eventually it was just me and 2 other guys.
How were the technical sections? You guys had been out there and previewed the course.
We pre-rode
and went
it
over
on
a couple
Wednesday.
places, right?
Yeah, we did.
It's crazy. In the whole race, there's like a quarter-mile technical section.
Correct. That's it.
And
Half mile.
there's one stupid big puddle, and so you get completely covered in mud once, and there you are, covered in mud.
Photographer there.
And the rest of it's dry and smooth and cushy gravel and really nice.
Yeah.
And half pavement and half, gravel. So the rest of it's really just
nothing.
normal racecraft. But there's only 1/2 mile.
But I had built this thing up in my mind because I'm not a technical bike rider. I don't race mountain bikes. I don't know a whole lot of gravel. And I was frankly a little bit terrified of this section. For the amount of bike racing I do, I'm absolutely terrified about falling off and crashing.
Yeah.
So I just did not want to do that. And so once that technical section was behind me, it just seemed to clear my head up. And I just went for it. I was feeling better and better. I kept my nutrition under control, and positioned myself well. You know, the biggest factor on that race on Sunday was the wind. I think it was constant at 20 miles an hour, gusting 10, 15 above that.
Yeah, gusting to 35.
Seemed to come from all directions.
Dang.
So even when you turned and went down the hill, you were still working hard. And that just ground on you for as the hours went by.
So was it swirling? You just had the perpetual headwind?
It just seemed like it.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it.
I remember
the only relief was as we turned into there's a climb to finish up with 1.5 miles to the finish line. And all of a sudden the wind died away and you're like, oh, great. But by that point, legs were cramping and it was still like a 10, 12%.
I remember doing that.
Ride.
This was probably like 2018, I think it was. It's been a minute since I've been out there and done that. But I remember having a tailwind at one section, doing 180, 200 watts and going like 35, 36 miles an hour. I'm like, this is magical.
Yeah.
And then when we came around a bend and like the topography changed a little bit and all of a sudden you're into a block headwind. And I remember putting down 350 to 400 watts and going like 11 miles an hour. I'm like, yep, this sucks.
Some of those spots in the gorge, like you can come out into a clearing and it feels like the wind's going to knock you off your bike. Like you're like warning to everyone, like two hands on the bar.
Yeah.
Like you really feel.
And that area around
it.
Dufa there's no trees really. It's just wide open. So the wind howls. And there was one point where we turned into a crosswind and we were heading downhill at like 30 miles an hour with these gusts coming perpendicular to us.
Yeah.
Perpendicular? Yeah. From the side.
Yeah.
And blowing you from the smooth path in the gravel on into the loose stuff on the side. And it was just, you know, it was scary stuff. But anyway, it was a good event and it was just fun being with so many people, with so many teammates. It was just a good time, I guess.
Good.
Looking back, and I'm still paying the price. I'm sore from that ride. It was a big effort for nearly 4 hours.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 five-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
There was a 15-mile section in there that was exactly the same as last year, and it was 9 minutes slower during that section just because of the wind.
Wow.
Yeah. Like my time last year, I was solo. I did the same watts this year as last year, 9 minutes slower. That's how much the wind made a difference. So,
wow.
But
I think you posted something to YouTube.
I did. I also did the race, but I completely chickened out and just did the short. The short.
And that is 1.25 miles, if I remember correctly.
That's right. It's a 400-meter race.
Yeah, it's all downhill. The wind's on your back.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to hop a rock.
The hardest point, it was like I did 61 miles, I think, and then you finish and you're still like 5 miles out of town and you got to ride up a hill, of course, to get back to the park.
Yeah. That's the best part. That's the social part.
Yeah. It was a long day. It was probably the biggest race on my calendar, and I don't have a lot left after this really that compares with that. So it was a good event, good day.
Yeah, good.
Looking back. Type 2 fun.
I did the small grinder. There was about 250 people, something like that, 250 or 300 that did the small grinder. Of course, I parked myself right at the front. I got to say, I ended up having the best race experience I've had this year so far doing this race because I was a factor in the race. I had teammates to work with. I had to use some racecraft to beat a couple guys. So that kind of made it a good experience for me. Yeah, there's a 10-minute YouTube breakdown of the race that I did or whatnot. But
how's your channel doing?
Oh, I'm almost at 700.
Nice.
So yeah, it's doing okay.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's still been fun. So very much fun.
Lance, did you win?
I did not. Yeah, no, not even close. Actually,
You did podium there.
I did podium. I was third in my age group. I was fourth overall. But no, fifth overall because Juliet beat me, the woman
Let's
from
go.
Hood River. Yeah, she's fantastic. So, but yeah, I did not win, and it was funny. I did better power this year and actually raced better, but what had worse results because faster people showed up. And that's what happens with the small grinder. You don't know who's going to do the medium or who's going to do the big. And I chose to do the small grinder because that's all the effort I really wanted to put into it. I've been struggling this year anyway, and so
on the last podcast, you were saying you were like, I'm not feeling it.
I wasn't
went
sure
on a couple. You went on a couple group rides, and you were getting your butt kicked, and you were like, this isn't going well.
It's not going well.
So how are you feeling now?
I feel a lot better actually, and I feel better because my body kind of responded well on race day, which was good. My race was a little different than Ian's. When our race flag dropped on that first 10-mile climb, there was a group of, or first 4-mile climb, there was a group of 10 that got away from me that I could not go. And I knew there was at least 5 in that group that were in my age group. And I thought, okay, this is going to be the day.
Days.
Yep. And I had a teammate with me, Justin Sipple. There were quite a few teammates with us, but Justin Sipple and I are pretty similar riders. We're pretty similar build. We're pretty similar riders. And so I caught him at the top of the climb, and the two of us worked together and pulled back a group of 4 that were in our group. And I thought, okay, fantastic. So now we're like somewhere in the top 5, you and me. And it was right before the technical section, and I dropped everybody on the technical section because I kind of attacked it really hard on purpose. And Justin stayed with me, which was fantastic.
Nice.
And then Justin and I traded poles for the next 15 miles. And it was so much nicer. Last year I did this race and I was alone the entire race. I did not have anybody to work with. And me and Justin were able to swap poles through the whole windy section, which was really nice. But right as we got to the end of our race, there was a left-hand turn and a 6-mile downhill for the small grinder. And right as that was happening, Justin and I caught 2 more people in our group, which I'm like, okay, fantastic. And I'm like, Justin, this guy I know is in my age group. We got to watch him. They were guys who took off at the very beginning, but we pulled him back. And on one final roller right before the downhill, we lost Justin. He just didn't quite hang on, which I was really pumped about. But we turned left on this downhill. As soon as we hit the downhill, there was a 20-mile-an-hour wind right in our face. And 2 guys ahead of me were 30 pounds lighter than me. And I kind of went, no way these guys are going to stay with me on this downhill into the wind downhill. And so as soon as it got steep, I attacked the downhill and I never saw either of them again, which was actually really nice. So I ended up 3rd in my age group and 5th overall. And so it ended up being a decent day for me. Felt a lot better about it. So
how are you feeling after the race?
I'm sore. I didn't race PIR yesterday either. I kind of skipped that, but yeah, we'll see how the rest of this year goes.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you got a birthday today, so you're not going out on the road tonight?
I'm not. My daughters are making me dinner or something, and we're going to celebrate a little bit with the family. So
nice.
Yeah, we'll take it easy today.
Cool.
I'm out.
Vaughn During, you got a back pedal?
Yeah, I did the flogging ride last week.
How was that?
It was fun. It was a little bit smaller of a group, which was kind of a little bit strange because the weather was absolutely perfect.
That was on the day that we did the podcast last week. I
believe so. Yeah. I think one of the big reasons why is there were a lot of people who are racing this weekend in general. There's a couple different races going on. So I think everybody was like, maybe I will save some of the intensity for the actual race as opposed to going out there and thrashing myself.
Did you go with the A group or the B group or the...
I rode with the A group.
Okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't all that huge. I think we ended up having just only like 6 or 7 people.
I believe I advised my guys that they probably shouldn't do the flogging ride.
I think I advised you not to
And
do the flying.
you advised me not to as well.
Yeah, again, it was totally fine. It was probably the right call, but it was still a blast. There was still like some people that showed up that could, full on like drop some huge watts, and we had fun mixing it up out there and didn't die, had good watts, and yeah, good times. I didn't get to ride though much else. I didn't get to do the Wednesday ride because work was stupid busy. Didn't get to ride over the weekend because work and family stuff got to be stupid busy. So I was on the trainer because I don't like riding in the dark. But yeah, so this week hopefully will be a slightly bit better scenario. There is a slight chance I can do the gravel ride tonight. I have my son's track meet.
Yeah.
And he is possibly doing the 200. He's going to find out at 200 at 2:00 today. If he does, I will not make it. If he does not, I think I'll have just enough time to see his first 3 or 4 events and then mosey on down to
He's crushing it in track.
Cool.
He's doing really well.
Fantastic.
He's doing all right. He's pretty stoked on it. He's doing well for a 15-year-old kid.
He got to go to the Jesuit race, right?
He did. He was invited to be on their 4x100 team.
And then I think I saw your wife taking photos at one of them. Maybe it was like last Tuesday at the Union race. Was she out there with the camera?
She was. Yeah, I left just a touch early to come home and make dinner before heading over to the Tuesday night gravel ride, and she snapped a few photos after I was there, taking some video and photos of him as well. So
pretty cool.
Yeah, it was that Jesuit thing. That was kind of a funny. It was a 45-minute drive down there with traffic and all the fun stuff. Got down there,
and the parking.
It was packed there. There were so many people. And we walked up and they're like $10 per person. Like, yeah, great. So handed over $20. We walked in and no joke, they called out his name and he gave us the wrong time. They called out not his name, but his team, like to go start lineup. So they've got 8 teams in all the 8 different lanes. And he was already in his lane. We literally walked up 30 seconds before he started. So it was just, we almost missed it.
You're like, we got in $20 and we'll turn around, come right back out.
Exactly. I walked in. 30 seconds later, I watched my son run for 11 and a half seconds, and we were done.
Yeah.
We went home.
You should have like walked out and been like, you know what? We just weren't feeling it. Can we get our money back?
Right.
Yeah. Anyhow, that's how that went. But this week will hopefully be better. Hopefully. Cool. All right. I think it's time to keep this thing going forward. So let's
Champ Bailey. Okay,
all right.
Wait, so are you related to Champ, or is Champ related to you?
Champ Bailey, we thought common. The Anchorman movie has Champ, a Champ character. And we thought his name, we all thought his name was Champ Bailey, right? But then it turns out it wasn't Champ Bailey at all.
It's Champ Kind.
Champ Kind, but Champ Bailey is like a
he's the Denver Broncos football player,
right?
That's why
retired linebacker.
We all like misrecalled his name, and so that's our sports anchor.
Our sports anchor is Champ Bailey, which is me. I am Champ Bailey.
He's here. We brought him out.
You've probably. Here's a little fun fact about Camryn. She knows nothing about popular culture. Culture to her is just so foreign. Cam, have you ever seen Anchorman?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Okay. It's a comedy.
It's a Will Ferrell. It's a Will Ferrell.
I know who Will Ferrell is.
Okay.
All right. You're good.
Barely. But there's a character in there, and he's a sportscaster. So we were trying to play fun. And
and there it is.
Yeah. Camryn was... I don't know where you were born, but I know that you lived for a significant amount of your time in a very remote part of Alaska.
It was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I lived in Anchorage, but I was homeschooled and then lived in small town Michigan for a while. So just missed a lot of, and I grew up very, very religious pastor's kid. So there was just not a lot of like exposure to pop culture. And then I went to college and just have been grinding kind of. And so I just haven't had a.
Where in Michigan were you?
I was in the southwest corner, so kind of right above the Indiana border on the lake.
Gotcha. I lived in Lansing and Grand Rapids for like 4 years. Yeah.
I was probably like 45 minutes from Grand Rapids.
Yeah. That's cool. That's a fun area.
Right. Anyway, just thought I'd share that. Hey, Champ.
Yes.
What's going on?
Any sports? Did anything happen?
In honor of Camryn, we are going to start with women's racing.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was the Tour of the Gila happened in New Mexico, Silver Springs, New Mexico. And yes, it was a UCI race this year. One of the few UCI road races that happened. And we had a teammate down there racing, Kylie Hannell.
Yep.
She was guest riding on a team on the Aegis Cycling mixed team.
Does that bode well for her, like future?
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yes, it does. She was guest riding just to get some experience with an actual team. And their team actually won the general classification with Lauren Stevens. Do you recognize that name?
Mm-hmm.
Lauren Stevens is a legit, she's really quite good. And so Kylie was able to be a domestique for their person. She was able to lead out the sprinter in one of the races. She was able to help set her up for the final climb in one of the races. And so
have you guys heard from her? Like, did she enjoy the process, or
she loved it? She's back at Tour de Bloom this week. Okay. So Tour de Bloom in Wenatchee is, I think that team is also doing Tour de Bloom, the Aegis cycling team. So fantastic.
And isn't Tour de Bloom also UCI this year, or one stage of it is, or something like that?
I'm not sure.
You're right. Yeah,
I think that could be the case.
Yeah.
So we're just super proud of
That's cool.
Kylie and being able to ride for that team. And so it's all good. So way to go, Kylie. So that's what happened there. I don't even know what happened in the men's race. I know there was a lot of people there, but I was only following the women's race because I knew Kylie was in the race. In other racing news, we did have the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, the final, no, it's not the final, the third monument of the season. And what happened is exactly kind of what we thought would happen. Tade was set up very well by his team. He rode away with like 35K to go, and nobody caught them.
It's getting boring, really.
I think I read some article that was like, is it getting boring? It's kind of getting boring.
It's kind of getting boring.
But I think that's okay. I mean, he's just good.
I don't think it was really that boring, but I think the interesting part of the race was the complete collapse of Remco.
Yeah.
There was definitely some that was the big question. Was it going to be Tade or Remco? Remco's run it a couple times, and Tade's won it a couple times. And Tade,
it was a pretty stacked field.
It was a pretty stacked field, but Remco just cracked.
Yeah.
It just kind of fell apart with only like 25K to go. And there was kind of a moment, I thought he quit the race because the camera was right on him as he was tailing off the back, and he pulled over and stopped. And I thought, okay, is something happening? Is something wrong? And no, there wasn't something happening, and there wasn't something wrong. Do
you think
he was getting away from the camera? He did not want the camera on him anymore.
I think I didn't watch the actual race, but I just saw the headlines, and Remco was just like, I'm not a robot.
Yes.
Which I
exactly
love that response, right? It's like, yeah. I mean, we all crack.
Yeah. So,
well, not all of us.
That's
crack,
what happened with him. He
Tade doesn't crack. Somehow
fell apart at that moment, and he ended up like 59th. I mean, he did like finish the race, but Tade rode away with it.
Just hasn't got the same training volume as the rest of the guys. He's coming back from injury, and from serious injury.
And he just hasn't. He had a really good week last week, and it all just kind of fell apart.
I feel like there's a lot of interesting little tidbits with this race. I think that there was like a headline that read like Tade went like podiums for the 6th time in a row, which is some sort of record within the classic season. It's a cool race.
It's a cool race. Yeah,
I don't know.
Sure.
I feel like this is a pretty cool time of year for cycling, where we're kind of finishing up our like classics time frame, and like we're about to move right into
the last classic isn't until like September or something like that.
Yeah, but
I think Liège-Bastogne-Liège is the most classic of the classics. It's old race.
Oh, okay.
It's been going on.
It's the oldest.
It's like something like the 110th edition.
Yes,
or,
correct.
I can't remember. It's been going on since the early 20th century.
The other funny thing that happened was Ben Healy was in the mix, and he got away with the other rider who took third. Guccione, I think is his name, a Trek Lidl rider. But after the race, so Ben Healy ended up third, and after the race, he went up to Tade and said, "Hey, when are you retiring?" He's like, the rest of us can't handle this. When are you retiring? And Tade said, "Oh, my contract goes through 2030. So we'll see what happens after 2030.
I feel like there was some other thing where they were just like, if you try and sit on his wheel, because they were talking about how he just kind of explodes. He's like, if you try and sit on his wheel and go with him, you die.
Yes.
If you don't go with him, that's that, right? Then you got a chance of like, okay. So I don't know. I feel like that's kind of where a lot of the riders are, but
yes, that's correct. So that's really all that has happened. I guess that was really all worth talking about. There are a few other races that are going on, but Tour de Gila and Liège-Bastogne-Liège, that was real. I'm going to talk about.
We had Fleck Vallon. Did we talk about that last week? I think.
Did we talk about
that? Was mid. That was
we did. I think
anyway,
we
I guess you won that one too.
We did it on Thursday. I'm confused again. You're the oldest one at the table, so I'm not surprised that you're losing your mind.
You guys are all stealing my old jokes.
And that's pretty much the whole podcast.
We make fun of ourselves enough, so you can't hear it.
What's coming up? Anything?
Nothing really.
Giro.
What?
Giro.
10 days.
But not for...
Starts in 10 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10
wow.
days. Okay. Yeah.
Soon.
That's what's coming up.
Crazy.
Champ out.
And Pogacar's not racing the Giro. Yay.
That's
Yeah.
Who's racing? Do you know?
I think
Wout.
Oh, is Wout like going for GC?
I don't know if he's going for GC, but
we'll find out.
Roglic. Roglic.
Yep.
Roglic? Okay.
Roglic. Yep.
Roglic, yeah. He's the favorite. He's going to be a heavy favorite, right? I mean, got to stay on the bike, but.
Yep.
Nice. Good job,
All right.
Champ.
Champ out.
All right, how about a little bit of this?
I did it with nothing but my own blood, sweat, and tears, and extra blood.
People dope. Yeah. You know, this is a sport with literally hundreds of dollars on the line and dozens of fans. The stakes are medium.
Come on. How do you beat a man on drugs if you're not on drugs?
Wait, did you just admit to being on drugs?
The EPO Chain Mail. Send us a text with your questions. Forward this podcast to 15 people, and you'll lose 10 pounds overnight without even trying.
You've got mail. Sounds good. Cameron, you've probably never heard that segment before, but this is a segment where our, I guess, listeners, the 3 or 4 of them.
Electronic
post office.
Electronic post office. Okay, sorry. EPO.
Chain mail.
Isn't EPO illegal? Isn't that what you just said, Cameron? It's not illegal. It's just
frowned upon.
It's not allowed.
I'm pretty sure it's illegal.
It's legal.
Anywho, there's a little option when you're listening to the podcast on all the different players to send us a text message, which is actually kind of cool. We don't get to see who you are. We don't get to see your number. We get to see where you're sending the text message from, and that's about it. And people will ask us questions and make comments and make fun of us, and it's pretty friggin' awesome. And speaking of, if you're hearing this, do that. Send us more stuff. We do have one that came in. However, it's the same one as last week. So again, shame on you listeners for not sending us more stuff. This one, though, I'm going to table it again. I kicked the can down to this week, and then we had Cameron agree to come on the podcast. And it would be a thing where it would be like a whole nother podcast if we sat here and talked about it.
We could do a whole show on this question.
There you go. Okay. So next week, guess what? This will be our topic. And you guys want to hear like the one key word, the one like little teaser?
EPO.
Drugs.
Oh, is it really? Oh, man, I was just joking.
Yes, please.
With another drug topic. Those are pretty interesting when we have these like wild tangents on drugs in the sport.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, well,
a lot of stuff to talk about, and they had some actual good little questions and things that they want us to chat about. So we'll talk about drugs next week. That'll be fun. Let's talk about women's bike racing, cycling, and all things women on bikes. Cameron, do you have anything to say about that? We got some questions. We got some things we want to talk about. We want to get your perspective because we're just a bunch of stupid guys.
We're a bunch of old white guys, so we need some better perspective than just 4 old white guys.
Kind of like a Cameron hot seat. Matt, do you got any questions you want to kick us off with?
One of the big ones is how do we get more women riding bikes and feeling confident out there, like considering the sport? I think that's one of the big ones that I think a lot of people, because it's a fun sport when you get out there and you're doing it.
Can I ask a little precursor question to his question, just to kind of lead into it? Because it was one of my questions. I think we would maybe kind of lead into it a little bit. How long have you been riding bikes? What got you first started? How did you kind of catch that bug? And how did you get to where you are today? I mean, you're wrenching on bikes, you're racing them, you're having fun riding them, and all the things in between. How did that all start?
Yeah. So my dad, when he lived in California, worked at a bike shop. He raced a little bit, was super into it. Kind of his side hustle when he was through his PhD was running a bike shop out of our garage.
Oh, wow.
I was in there like wiping off bikes and whatever. And I was homeschooled. So my brother and I just rode bikes all the time. That was, I think, most of my education was riding bikes around the block. And then I stopped riding, stopped doing most things bikes into high school. And then when I started working at REI, kind of got back into it, went mountain biking a couple times. And I was like, whoa, this is super, super sick and kind of just picked up the vibes of it. I had a bunch of really cool friends that worked at REI. One of them was an older woman she freaking shreds on a mountain bike. She's so good. And her partner were like, hey, you should consider racing if you're this good. And I was like, oh, haha, I would never. And then when I moved to Vancouver, got looped in with Dialed. And I think the first ride I went on was a fog hat ride, and I got dropped. And
oh, wow. Yeah.
It was not great.
In your defense, though, you're coming off of a knee surgery. And yes, that's like a social ride. We're going pretty easy. So you quickly kind of snapped back, though.
Yeah.
And where are we at today?
Yeah. Which is like...
Aren't you racing Cat 1 and mountain bike?
Cat 1 mountain bike, Cat 2 cross.
Cat 2 cross.
Yeah.
And haven't done a whole lot of road races.
Haven't done a whole lot of road races.
Any gravel races under your belt yet?
I have not done a gravel race.
Plenty of gravel rides, but no gravel races.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Which on the list for later.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that will roll right into Matt's question of how do we get more women on bikes racing?
Yeah, I think like a lot of things, just having an easy entrance. I know I've done a fair amount of like bike clinics with ladies, like how to change a flat. And I think men are a little bit better at just saying like, all right, I'm going to go try this thing. They don't have, I'm making generalizations here, but maybe not the same level of nervousness or lack of confidence going into something. And I think that's something a lot of women struggle with, especially in the sports realm, in a very new sport, very male dominated sport, is like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know. So I think just improving confidence, like having clinics. I know there's a lot of women who race at a very high level in this area who have a lot of women's clinics, women's rides, gravel clinics for women. And I think that kind of thing that just builds self-efficacy in the sport would be the biggest thing, like a smoother entrance into it. Gotcha.
So I know, I guess it would be kind of like a safety in numbers kind of thing. If there's more women, it'd be easier for women to come in. So the numbers just aren't quite the same as, their counterpart, if you will. So just getting more women in would definitely help. But for those that are already in the mix, just be good, stewards to the whole cycling community and really like reach out and try and pull more people in to make it more accessible.
Yeah. And maybe more education. Like this is what you need for your first ride, or having loaner equipment for ladies to try out for their first time, just to maybe mitigate the financial barrier a little bit. And just the, I don't even know where to begin.
Gotcha.
Barrier.
What would you say some of the biggest bottlenecks are for women in general, just getting into cycling?
Maybe general, and then this is coming from the biased perspective of a mechanic, but general bike knowledge, I think, would be a big one. Like, oh, I want to go ride, but I don't know how to change a flat. I don't know what I need to get as far as a bike. I don't know the gear I need to get. I don't know where to ride. I don't know who to ride with. Are the things I think I've heard the most from other women. And some women just don't like being that on which you hear from men too. Like, I don't like being that close to cars.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
So having more clinics, more women reaching out and doing more stuff to educate them. What about from an equipment standpoint? Are there like issues there too? I mean, we hear this all the time, like, the saddles are uncomfortable. These bikes, they're too big, they're too small. Is that a pretty common thing too? Just not having the right gear in general and being able to, I guess, kind of goes back into educating them, right? Just to say that just because that's what's on there doesn't need to be what stays on there.
Yeah. I think all of us have experienced it. You're off the bike for a little bit and get back on and it hurts. It just is uncomfortable. You have to get used to it again.
Yeah.
And I think just explaining that a little bit better, like just sit in, it's going to suck for the first 2 weeks you ride, go on a couple longer rides and it will get better.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think maybe like bike fitting might be an important part of it. And I don't know how much of that is women, especially who haven't done a sport before, maybe just aren't used to, like, sometimes things just suck a little bit. You just have to sit in and suffer a little bit.
So let's say you get them on the bike and finally like, all right, I kind of like this. This is fun. I found like something that I like and the people are really cool. How do you get them to pin on a number for the first time? That seems like a little bit taller of an ask. So it's like already dealing with a very small sample size. And then of that, I mean, what percentage of women want to actually pin on a number and go race versus just going for regular rides?
I think that's a really good question. And I think how much of that comes down to like the actual like differences between men and women and the competitive, like natural competitive nature.
Yeah.
How many more men want to go out and just compete than women? But if that was controlled for, if the culture, you see this in local races, the culture in men's races at the start line is very, very different than the culture in women's races. Like we're out fist bumping and giving each other hugs and hyping each other up before a race. And even during the race, it's like, hey, passing you on your left. And you're like, yeah, you got it. Go ahead. Good job. And that's, from what I've heard, not really the experience that a lot of men have. You guys could all speak to that better.
You don't get that as much, for sure, unless people making fun of me as they're passing me and I laugh back.
That's a you thing, Lance.
Yeah, that's a me thing.
It's interesting because I come from like a running background, and I feel like women's running is excellent. It's on par with guys running, and like the fields are sometimes, especially in some of the road races, if anything, there might be more women than men. And from a competitive standpoint, a lot of these women, again, they're super competitive, and they might not be quite as nice as some of the cycling, the women in the cycling field. It might be different. You're breathing hard constantly when you're running, so there might be a slight difference there. Like there's not like that, like, go ahead.
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
It is making some inroads. Just looking at the numbers from the Gorge Grell Grinder this weekend, there were about 150 women who competed, which is great. That's out of 900. Yeah. But still, there was 150 women that lined up, and that kind of.
Well, we were down in Arizona.
How was that
for the Valley of the Sun? It seems like half the people down there were female. It seemed like it was so good to see. There was a huge field of women racers, and the same with the Tucson Bicycle Classic.
Correct.
And the same on the Tucson Shootout. Like,
really,
there was tons of women.
Is that the difference between like recreational and elite racers, though, too, where there's that it's a big stage race, so you're going to see more even numbers because all of the elite women are going to go
it's
race.
a national level race, and so you
that's a good point.
Pool of people showing up for the race is larger anyway. It's and people coming from all over the country. That's the thing. It's a struggle locally to have larger women's fields in races, and then that in itself, I feel, is a deterrent. Like I know women on the Dow cycling team that don't come to road races because they're like, I don't get anything out of it. I'm here with there's a field of 5 people, and I won. Woohoo! It's like, because the fields are small, that's also a discouragement. But then, what do you do to grow those fields?
Yep.
And that, I think, that is a part of amateur racing, especially on the road, that you have to cater to. The fields are more dispersed. You have age groups. You have masters. You need to have a lot of fields, and so consequently, some of those are going to be small.
How do you manage the women's field, like categories versus men's field, for a race like the time trial? Is it or Barton Park for any of these races that you put on?
In an ideal world, you will always race with your peers. If you're a 20-year-old Cat 3 women, you have a Cat 3 women's field, period. But it just doesn't work out that way. So
can you look at the numbers?
At the end of the day, you end up combining fields, which is never
great. Yeah.
There's always a compromise in there. But the alternative is to have a field of 3 or 4 people, which is
not fun.
Just not fun for anybody.
That's something I've experienced the few road races I've done. We have phenomenal women on our team, but if they're not at a race, I feel like half the fun of a road race is that team dynamic and getting to work together.
Yes. Yeah.
And it turns into a solo race where you're alone competing against another team that might have 4 or 5 women working together. And that kind of makes the joy of racing go away a little bit, where it's like, oh, I'm missing half the race that I could be experiencing because I'm TTing this, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you contrast that with the race we did on Sunday, where the women and the men and all ages and all abilities all start together, we have the same
the only
starting time.
Yeah. The distances all sorted together. But
you kind of think,
mixed.
Actually, that sort of works because, for example, women are encouraged to race because there's a lot more of you there in the field. And as it turns out, not racing strictly with people of your age or in your race category is not always such a bad thing. Like, I ended up with a group of people that were 20, 30 years younger than me. I don't know what race category they were at, but you find yourself in a similar a group of people of similar abilities, which is what you want.
Which is perfect. And that's how they do running road races too. It's like a mass start.
All mass start. Yeah.
So it's
unless it's a really professional race where money is on the line, then the women have their own start times.
Yeah.
It's just like in the Lifetime Grand Prix this year, the women all have a separate start and are not allowed to draft off of men for the pro races for the Lifetime Grand Prix.
And we've talked about that on the podcast because it becomes like a super interesting race dynamic when you're like, okay, sprint for 2 miles, get on some guys' wheels, and then like, and even like some guys working with their wife or whatever.
Yes, that
and
happened
it's
a
pretty
lot
cool.
in the last few years where women had teammates or partners who would pace them for miles. I mean, and it's not allowed in the Lifetime Grand Prix this year. And the women get their own start, and drafting isn't allowed. So I think the more coverage there is for women's racing, or for talking about results, or talking because there's good stories there. There's very interesting good stories. Just like watching Peter say out sprint Demi Vollering in the in Flesh Alone this last week. That was freaking amazing to watch. And it was more exciting finish than the men's race was. So it's just a matter
the downside of having everybody race together. So if all the women race together in one big race, it's a better experience. It's a more fun race, right? But you don't know. At the end of the day, if you're interested in results, you don't know who your competition is. That's what we found on Sundays. Like, well, which guys am I actually racing against?
In triathlon, they write on the back of your leg.
Yeah.
And so we should follow whatever triathlon does is the way that all cycling should go.
It wouldn't be hard, right? It wouldn't be hard to have different colored number or.
There's a couple races where I've been calf marked.
Yeah.
At bike races.
What does it say on there? Old man?
It puts they put your wave number on there, so I'm competing against the people in this.
Do they just like draw like a gray-haired old man on the back of your leg?
Just
wrinkles. Just wrinkles. Okay.
I just out of curiosity, I don't know. I kind of seen this in triathlon a little bit. Matt's, I think, talked about this a little bit before too. But a lot of times, somebody will come into a sport with a goal of like wanting to do something, achieve something, and then once they check that box, they'll move on to something else. That I don't know if that is pretty prevalent in triathlon. Like a lot of people will come and say, I'm going to do a triathlon, and they'll like work up to maybe do like a half Ironman or something like that. They'll do a couple sprints in an Olympic, and they'll go do their half, and then all of a sudden they're done and off. You get to something else.
You get two people. You get the either like I'm going to do a triathlon, and they do a sprint, and then they're done. Or you get the I'm going to do an Ironman, and they train for a year, maybe 2 years. They do an Ironman. Sometimes they finish, and then they're done.
Yeah,
and then you have this tiny, tiny, tiny little sliver of people that just they enjoy it and they keep doing it and they do a lot of stuff. So I don't know.
Do you feel like we see a lot of that in women's racing in general? I mean, I feel like they get into the sport and they like it. They fall in love with it. They have fun for a year or two. And then like, no, I'm going to go try something else now. I mean, I've kind of seen that. I mean, we do have women on our team that have been around for many years now and still come out to all the races, but some have kind of like come and gone. But again, that's kind of part of life too. Like things ebb and flow. I mean, you haven't seen me at very many races in the last 2 years, and that's just because of life. You're injured or having issues with like, being broken. God, just so many different things will come out, and I will be back. But is it more prevalent with women? Is that something that happens there? And if so, how do we get them back?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's that like it's harder to prioritize racing or fitness when I can't imagine like having a family and trying to prioritize a family within that. But yeah, I think.
But gender roles are changing a little bit, and they have over the last 15 years, 20 years. Gender roles have changed enough that it's not frowned upon like it would have been 20 years ago. Thank goodness, because really there's no reason for the, stigma.
I see a lot of girls getting burned out, like have a ton of fun racing, go all out, do all the races every year for 2 years. And then it's like, man, I'm not having fun anymore. And stop racing, but keep riding.
Yeah, I could see that being an issue too, because if you're like all into it and you're like, I am so invested in this and I absolutely love it, and I'm going to do all of the things and all of the training and get all the best gear, and I show up to a race and I'm racing against 3 or 4 other people. It's just like, all right, like, how is this benefiting me? I mean, I don't know. Would that dynamic or would that mindset change if they showed up and there was consistently 20, 30, 40 women in their category showing up to race, making it a lot more fun?
Yeah, I think it would. I know if PIR Monday night races had a lot more people, I'd be a lot more inclined to show up more consistently.
Sure.
I think about Trophy Cup cyclocross.
Bring that up.
Is this last year? I think a couple of the races had pretty even numbers for a couple of the categories, men and women.
Wow.
Well, one of the things that Clint did was he made the women's beginner field free.
Yeah.
And
Plant those
women,
seeds, yeah.
it's
And they showed up.
low stakes race.
Yes.
It's an absolute riot. Like if you haven't been or know what it is, there's just like strobe lights everywhere and kids are throwing candy at you and people are screaming and there's commentators and it's
a Tuesday night party.
Yeah. And it's fun. And there's no stakes. People are out there on like junk bikes that they have no business racing on. And I would say it's the easiest, like lowest barrier to entry race. And you see women keep showing up to that race and then start racing cyclocross because of it.
Gotcha. Are there any stigmas with any of the different disciplines that maybe kind of are like sour women on the said discipline? Is there anything that you can speak to?
I know this is coming from a person who races on the dirt for the most part too, is we all kind of have a stigma against road racers.
Yeah.
Ian.
They tend to be a jerky bunch.
Just jealous. Just jealousy, really.
Yes. I'm jealous of the white shoes. That's
So what is that stigma? Is it that the guys who do a lot of that racing, and if they show up to like group rides, they're kind of a-holes? I mean, is that kind of the problem, or is it too much machismo out there and they're like, yeah, this is not my cup of tea?
I think a little bit. I mean, I love that on the flogging ride, we have a women's women's start now. I think that's been fantastic when women show up.
And that's the operative word, is when. I don't think a single woman has showed up for any of the women's groups yet this year, and we've had 4 of them. So that's a bit of a bummer, because we have in years past have had some pretty decent sized groups. And, you know, for the most part, I don't know, I don't like to like separate them out, because there's a lot of time that the women are stronger than the D group and stronger than the B group or C group, and they can hang with the A group or B group, and they actually do. So I don't know, just to lump them all in and say, all right, we're going to go about this fast. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're not supposed to drop each other. Well, then that kind of defeats the spirit of the ride. So I don't know. I've kind of always had a little bit of an internal conflict there, but I don't know. What do you think?
The couple times that I've gone out and I have rolled out with the women's group, we've separated ourselves. There's usually been more of a party pace and more of a quicker pace.
Go fast, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's worked pretty well, again, when there's the numbers to make that work.
Sure.
And we're not going to leave one newer gal out there to try to figure out the flogging ride alone. So that I see what you're saying there, where it's like, yeah, we're not going to drop somebody, but this is a race pace ride.
Sure.
So again, comes back to there's just not enough women that show up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Out at PIR Monday nights, you'll often see more women in the open field. Like when I race the 1, 2, 3s, there's probably 10 or 15 women in there out of a field of 60, 70.
That's awesome.
Which is probably a bigger field than the exclusive women's field. And they do well, you know, they're competitive people.
Cool. Lance, you got any other questions for Camryn regarding the women's cycling stuff?
Where would you really like to see it go? I mean, what are the things that you personally have kind of experienced or gone through that had made you go, okay, I don't want to be a part of this, or that is a gender basis that I just don't feel is well, or on the other side, how do we change those things?
That's a good question, and kind of a broad one.
It was too broad, probably.
I think men and women both don't know things. And I think men and women realizing that they don't know things and being okay with that and being maybe better at learning. Like, Lance, don't mansplain to me. You know?
Right.
But no, I think maybe more education in general for men and women in like mechanics works, or like how to draft, how to be in a group together, I think would be helpful and maybe break some of those barriers between men and women. Not that I think that every ride should be open to both. I think there should be women specific rides and men specific rides if that's what they want.
You've done like women specific rides. How do those usually go? What's the take on those?
They're always awesome, and it always the vibe depends on who shows up. If somebody who's a little slower shows up, we'll adjust the route, we'll adjust the pace.
Sure.
If it's all the gals that we race together and we all go out and ride together, it'll be a quick ride.
So just having more people that are willing to do that kind of stuff would be awesome.
Yeah.
Now, can you, like, just from your personal experience, like, think all things Camryn and all things cycling and those things melting together, what are some experiences or what are some takeaways? What are some things that you could throw out there to women? Like, hey, you should really consider this. And, you know, I don't know how many women listen to this podcast, but you could for sure, like, say, hey, guys, you probably know some women, like, this is kind of what we're thinking, or these are some things that it's done for me. What could you say to speak to that?
It's fun. Like, riding is so much fun. And I think as soon as you have that little bit of base fitness to actually go out and compete, or even just make it through a quicker ride, we're like, dang, we're bombing some downhills here. Or, hey, I finally have the technical skills that I can go on a mountain bike ride with my friends. And I think the women and guys that ride, being patient with the women around you who maybe don't have the experience. And yeah, if you have to tow them up a hill so they get to bomb the downhill. Like, I know as soon as I got that experience of like, oh, this is so much fun. It makes me want to go out and train and try harder and show up to the races. And the hard work, it's cliche, but the hard work pays off, where it's like, okay, I went out and rode 10 hours this week, and the next week the flogging ride was a lot easier.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's kind of amazing how you almost get addicted to that.
Yeah.
It's a weird dynamic to, like, just go out there and absolutely punish yourself and, like, thank you, may I have another. It's such a cool dynamic. So
it's a perfectly natural thing as well to be intimidated by something new, or taking it up to the next level. It's always intimidating. When you look around you, there's plenty to be intimidated about in uncertain rides, right? But I think it's harder. This is a big generalization as well, but it's maybe harder for guys to admit that they're intimidated and that they're just going to push through and do it anyway and not say anything about it. So there's that.
I think that's true. And like Lance said, a lot of things are changing in general in society. And I think it's a hard conversation to talk about without talking about bigger societal things. Like, what have women been shown in media? A lot of it isn't women. I mean, think about Red Bull Rampage. Like, what was the women's downhill that got added and then taken away? And then the women were like, are you kidding me?
Why'd you take it away?
Yeah. And as soon as they add it, women come out and absolutely rip. Like, they crush it. It's watched. It's advertised. It's in no way a negative. And it's just not out there.
I think that's right. There's certain sports have been from the get-go for all genders, right? I'm thinking, I don't know, like skiing, for example. Yeah. When people started holding ski races,
swimming,
it was all genders from the beginning. Whereas cycling's been a man's sport for so many. You know, it's got a lot of history, decades of history, and through 90% of that, it's been basically a men's only thing. So, and you see that's your exposure to cycling is watching it on the TV, watching it at pro level. And when you don't see people that represent you know, you don't feel like you need to be included.
Yeah. Right.
And when you're a kid, how many like little boys get a bike for their birthday and a girl gets a dollhouse?
Right.
Where it's like the base hasn't been set up, where then a woman gets on a bike and she doesn't have the same bike handling skills because it wasn't ingrained from the time she was 4.
Yeah.
And I see those things changing more now. Like, hey, it's my daughter's birthday, we're getting her a bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
have you, as a mechanic, seen a lot of sexism? Because I here's my sexist remark.
The industry.
Ready? Are you ready for this? I'm thinking about, like, oh, if I was in a group ride and, like, had a mechanical issue and, you know, like, you and Jake come up to me, I'd be thinking like, oh, Jake will help me with this. I wouldn't immediately be like, hey, the mechanic here should be the one I should be asking for help, right? I imagine that there's a fair amount of sexism from the mechanic side of things.
Yeah, prefacing this, overall, it's been wonderful. Men and women have been wonderful. I've wrenched for a lot of events.
Yeah.
And
it's so cool to see a woman wrenching at these big races that we've been doing, and Camryn's been doing that this last year. A lot of the cyclocross events.
She does a great job with it too. And if a guy does give her just a little bit of like side eye or a little bit of flack or like a little bit of attitude, she does such a great job of putting them in their place without being like unprofessional about it, which is pretty cool. And I've purposefully at the lab made sure that I don't step up and say things, and I'll just like, she's going to answer your question, and she does a fantastic job.
You know, Camryn's influence has changed the way I have acted on some group rides myself, because there were a couple times. There was a time this winter when I was in Tucson, I was riding with a former professional cyclist woman and a couple other very strong men, and she flatted on the ride. She flatted because I didn't point out a hole good enough, and she hit it, and it was partially my fault, but she flatted, and we pulled over, and she started working on changing her tire. And instead of just instinctively wanting to take over, because that would be my instinct initially, is to be a provider and a helper and to solve the problem.
Exactly.
That would be my instinct. It was no.
But here's my question. Like, did you think to yourself, she can handle this better than anyone, or because you know her, or did you or were you like, I don't do this to anyone now. Like, I don't do this to any women or whatever.
It was that. It was you don't step in unless you're asked to step in.
What about me? What if I had a flat? You would know. You'd be like, damn flat. You'd be like, Matt doesn't know what he's doing.
No, I'd sit down and start scrolling Instagram. Like, you take as long as you want.
Let's film this.
I'm just gonna film.
I only have so much. I have so much hard drive here, but we're gonna try to film this.
But no, eventually the woman said, "Hey, could you help me?" And I'm like, "Of course, I'd be happy to." She just couldn't get the tire back on the rim because it takes a little more strength in the fingers to do that.
Let me just ask you a quick question then, Camryn. Let's say you're in that position and you start doing your own thing. Would you be offended if I were just to say, let me know if you need help?
No, and I think that would be the perfect thing to say, like, I'm here to help. I have a toolkit, or let me know if you need anything. But I think it's when the guys like jump in and like expect that you can't do it. That grinds my gears a little bit.
And it should.
And it should, But, and it's got to be massively pervasive in the cycling industry. I just think to myself, like, I could see myself doing that and being like, oh, that was really poo-poo of me to do.
The only time I've seen that, there's been one or two times at cyclocross races that I've gotten like a surprised, oh, you're the mechanic, but it's always in good faith. Like, it's just like, oh, that's cool. But at the triathlons that I've worked, I've seen I've gotten more comments, especially from men who have worked on bikes in the past, who just want to come make a comment like, oh, you used a tire lever on a carbon rim. And it's like, dog, I'm putting on tubeless Pirelli P0s. Yes, I did. It'll be okay.
Sure did, buddy.
And everything's okay.
And he's like, oh, by the way, can you pump up my tire for me?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know how to unscrew a press a valve stem. What's
triathletes, man.
But overall, working at REI, I got a few like,
they taught you how to pump up tires.
They did. And I got a few flat out, oh, is there a man here that can help me with this? Comments.
Oh, jeez.
But since I've been at the lab and at most of the cycling events, I've been
pretty okay.
Yeah. Guys have been good.
Cool. Good. Would you describe yourself as being a bit of a unicorn in the cycling world? Somebody who is super passionate about it, loves racing them, loves riding them, loves building community, loves teaching people, loves, like, works as a mechanic. I mean, you're like the quintessential women cyclist. I mean, I can think of a couple of them here, actually in the Portland area, but this is such a cycling dense area with a lot of great shops and some great women that work there. But on the whole, I mean, how many of them are there in the country?
I've met, I personally know two, Brenna, and then the girl who was wrenching for Cross Crusade before me, Isabella.
Okay.
And she is a suspension expert in Seattle now. Like, all she does is work on suspension. And she's actually part of the reason that I tried cyclocross and was interested in wrenching for them, because I was like, this is so sick that there's a female mechanic out here who's racing Cat 2 or 3 or whatever she was racing at the time, who's competent. The men love and trust her. And I was like, man, I want to be her when I grow up one day. And then 2 years later, get to fill her shoes. It was like an absolute honor. But also she created that pathway.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. And I would love to see when I get back, I would love to keep doing it or see another female mechanic fill it. That would be so cool.
I think Brenna taught me how to tape bars, how to do bar tape.
Yes.
Yeah.
To the unicorn comment, it's kind of like engineering, which is super. I mean, I know it's not
women in
specific
STEM.
engineering, but like it's
More women in STEM.
Yeah, it's the double whammy of cycling and engineering almost. Like that seems very male dominated.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've been in I did jujitsu pretty competitively for a long time. And then I've been involved in like flying airplanes. My dad and I are building an airplane in the garage. And I think being comfortable in male dominated areas has helped me kind of go in strong and feel a little bit more confident.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as society changes a little bit with that, it would be super cool to see more women kind of follow suit in cycling.
You've accomplished a lot, and my hat goes off to you. You know, kudos. What goals do you still have in the world of cycling?
Yes. So, deployment, I'll be back in April. If I'm able to get a big girl job teaching somewhere, that is fantastic, and that will be my priority for at least a year. If I don't, because jobs are hard to find right now, I want to train my butt off and go to cyclocross nationals.
Ooh, doggy, that'd be sweet.
There you go.
And I think the end of last cyclocross season, went to MFG, raced Pro 1-2s, finished on the lead lap. I was a few minutes behind Paula, who won, and then Aliyah Shafi, who just won Redlands.
Yes.
Who was the GC winner, was second. And I was probably 5 or 6 minutes off of them. And that's after riding my bike like 1,000 miles that year. So
yeah, not very much is what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Any other like goals for any other disciplines or any like big races that you want to race? Any bucket list things? We kind of talked about bucket list stuff recently on the podcast.
I would love to do a road stage race. I think just getting a little more comfortable with the stage race would be cool, and gravel. But I love mountain biking and cyclocross so much. I think the technical skills are where I excel.
Sure.
And I would love to use that and talking about women in cycling, I would love to get more women in cycling, do more clinics, be more consistent with women's rides, work with other women who are big in the industry here, and just get stuff rolling, like bring it in. I think I have a good personality to bring people into stuff, and just getting people going with cycling, women going, younger women coaching younger girls.
Sure. Yep.
So sick. That would be so sick.
One more question for me, and then I'll shut up. Do you have any dream bike builds for any of the disciplines?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like if it were just magically show up on your doorstep tomorrow, like I'm sure you've got something in like the forefront of your brain. Like I would love to have this bike for the road, for mountain, for gravel. I mean, what are those bikes?
Yes. I have it all written out on my computer, actually. Dream bike build, if I could just have one, would be a custom titanium gravel bike, kind of like the Sarah Gates bike that can kind of do anything with it. Carbon
Flanimal. Yeah.
Flanimal.
Yes.
Can put bigger 650s on there if you want to. I love the look of whiskey components.
Sure.
I follow suit with the rest of Dialed. SRAM Red would be sweet.
Yep.
I love Chris King. That would probably be my like dream build.
Bike, yeah. What about do you have like a road bike that you're like super keen on, or what about a mountain bike too? I mean, because I know that you kind of like all of those disciplines.
Yes.
I mean, what would those bikes be?
Mountain biking, honestly, right now, if it had better components, the mountain bike I'm on, like a hardtail BMC, is so sweet. I'm wearing the Zip shirt, but the new Zip cross country wheels that came out, I got to test ride those for a little bit. Those were phenomenal.
Sure.
So I think like a carbon hardtail frame with, I don't know how I feel yet about electronic shifting. Working on it's fun. I think it's super, super cool, but there's something I just like about mechanical.
Yeah. For just the off-road stuff or all disciplines?
Maybe for all disciplines.
Really?
I don't know. I think I just know I know how to fix it if something goes wrong, and I don't know how to do.
Yeah. If there's, there's nothing like a lot of electronic stuff. You're like, well, some circuit board in there. Like there's nothing to do there, right? There's nothing to work with. Whereas like this cable, I can work with this cable. I think that's really
and that's fine and that's fair when you're at home and the bike can be up in a stand. But I mean, how many times have you seen somebody who have mechanical something like a cable snap out on a ride versus somebody that had like their rear derailleur just went kaput? I mean, your battery could die, but with SRAM, it's pretty easy to have one of those little spare batteries. So I think I've seen more cables break than I've seen people like, oh man, this is going to be a long ass ride home because my electronic shifting just stopped working.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's true. And maybe it's a little bit of I know I can't afford it, so I'm not going to convince myself that I want it yet. But as soon as I can.
Give it time. Well, that's cool. But any particular road bike or mountain bike? You kind of like your mountain bike. You keen on the hardtail? You wouldn't go full squish?
I think I'd go full squish if I got into maybe a different discipline instead of cross-country mountain biking.
Okay.
But I think the weight trade-off, if I could find a full suspension that was the exact same weight, I might go for it. But there's something
exist yet.
Yeah.
Not quite.
And there's no cross-country race in this area that I've done that you need a full suspension for.
That's fair. Fair question. Fair answer. Cool. Like I said, I am done asking questions. Do you guys have anything else that you would like to ask Camryn?
I'm good.
Bueller. All right. Well, thank you very much. Yes. That was awesome. Is there anything that we left out? Anything that you want to say? Any little putting your exclamation mark on this?
What do you guys think that you want to see from women in cycling? Like, is there something that's like, oh, if a woman did XYZ, we'd be more inclined to invite her on this ride, or something that you guys think that women could do better in cycling?
I can't think of anything where I'd be like, oh, now we're going to invite this person onto the ride. I think it's more, unless they're mean, we generally don't invite mean people onto rides. So, I mean, I don't think that there's anything specific that women need to do to then be invited to do a certain ride with the group or whatever. I do think that there's got to be a way to, I think sometimes it just takes like a personality like yours to just be just out there inviting people hey, got to do this ride. I have a friend and she's loud and she's crazy and whatever, but she will hound you. She'll be like, what about Saturday? Let's ride. And then she'll be and then she'll text you again all right, Saturday we're on, right, for a ride. And then I'll just be like, I guess we are, and we'll go ride. So, but I think it takes someone, whether it's a guy or girl, whatever, I don't think it matters, but it's someone to be a little bit pushy to get the group to ride and to get a decent sized group going. Someone pushy.
Just need more ambassadors in general that fit that mold right there. I think that'd be fantastic. And I love it when women show up and they jump in groups and you're like, oh, she's going to ride with this group or she's going to ride in that race. And I love it when they handle their business. And I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but I love seeing guys getting chicked. I mean, that's what we've called it. I don't know if that's inappropriate anymore
on Sunday.
But I love that more than anything, because it's just a testament to this sport is so dynamic and there's so many different ways that you can get involved. And if you just do the hard work, you can really put yourself out there and do some cool stuff. And I love seeing cool stuff, which you've done. Love it. Cool. All right. Well, let's put a pin in that and say thank you to Camryn, and let's jump into one last thing. Matt Legrand, what's on tap?
I always start with the one last thing because I don't know why I do, but I don't know. I put out 2 videos last week and I don't know if I talked about them already.
Talk about them again. They need some views. They need people.
One of them. Yeah. Okay. So the last one I posted was the Apple Watch after 10 years. So on, I want to say Thursday, they had their 10-year anniversary that the watch has been on sale. So posted a video about that. And it's very After Effects heavy, which is kind of animation heavy, whatever, where you're looking at a timeline of the Apple history or whatever. So
it's a good little documentary almost.
Yeah, go check that one out if you want to reminisce on Apple Watches. And the next video coming up is probably on a Google Wear OS watch, which I haven't really reviewed a lot of these Google Android Wear OS watches. Mostly because I've been on the Apple side of things for a long time, but this one's actually quite good. It's called the OnePlus Watch 3 and looks like this for those of you guys that are sitting at the table and not listening to the podcast. But it's got a 5-day battery. It's quite good and checks all the boxes. So that video will probably come out in another week or so.
Cool.
I get my button gear.
We'll come back to you, Camryn. You can come up with one last thing you want to
anything
share with us all. Gibbo.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm going to say, right? It's a week and a half away to the Baden Park Road Race. All my mental energy has been putting into this, but it's frustrating, right? I'm as guilty of this as the next person, signing up for the race at the last minute.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to feel, what my leg's going to be like, what the weather's going to be like, how many other people are going to show up. I'll leave it. And as a promoter, it's like, it stresses me out because we've made a big commitment and financially in there now, and you're just wondering, is it going to work out? Is this going to happen this year? Am I going to lose my shirt?
Yeah.
Am I going to look like a fool because all my fields have only got 3 riders in them? Or
oh no!
But I think it's going to be fine. It's like it's the way it is. People sign up at the last minute. But please sign up.
What is the biggest thing, in your opinion, that makes people wait until the last minute? Is it, let's see how the weather's going to be? Or is it more of like,
weather for me?
I want to see who signs up to race first, because if so-and-so shows up, I'm not going because I'm not going to be able to win. Do you think it's that, or is it a mix of all kinds of stuff?
I think it's basically the weather. But also, we're all amateurs cyclists. You don't know what else is going to be on your plate that weekend. Is my kid's soccer match going ahead, or is it, like all of these things that we have to deal with? It's understandable.
What is your refund policy, or do you have one?
I just leave that with Oprah.
Oprah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it like once you sign up though? Is it you're locked in and you can't?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, we're not going to give somebody a refund because it's raining, right?
True. I mean, but what if you were to say 72 hours? Up until 72 hours, you can do a refund. Would that be
still up to Oprah?
Still up to,
yeah.
And there's all these fees involved when you're talking about credit card processing.
Correct.
I think
you don't get those fees back.
I don't know any other promoter that gives a refund that late.
Or what if you had the option to like sell them some sort of insurance policy to like be able to cancel?
Yeah, I guess maybe
that could be just an extra bit of money.
I mean, traditionally, the way to encourage people to sign up early is to increase your fees for a day of.
That's what I think you should do.
But I don't think even that. I don't think discourages people.
Does it not discourage them because they're just going to pay the extra fee? Well, that's more money in your pocket then. Increase that number until it hits them hard enough, right? Where it's like, it's $25 if you do it 2 months before.
Sometimes it's double the amount. I think you should. One race recently where they said, we'll accept a day of entries, but it's going to be double. But then you're going to miss out on those people. So they're not going to be there.
How stressful is it for you then, right? Like then you're just like, well, I guess we'll wait for the day.
Yeah, we just have to wait for the day.
I know a lot of triathlon races and road races where it's like crazy expensive day of. And you're like, I'm not paying that. I'm going to sign up a week before. Or like you look at those little date cutoffs or whatever it is. Right. And you're like, of course, it's easier to do some of these events than like a cycling race when bad weather hits. So,
yeah.
Anyway, it's the Pacific Northwest. It rains here. We have all kinds of weather. It doesn't usually spoil the fun. There has been a couple races this season where it's been pretty extreme, but it's just the way it is. That's part of living in the Pacific Northwest, right?
Sure.
So
cool.
Show up. Sign up.
Yeah, so my one last thing is that it is a double gravel race weekend this weekend coming up. Mike Ripley's Mudslinger Events puts on 2 of his gravel races this weekend near Newport, Oregon, out on the Oregon coast. Saturday is the Oregon Coast Gravel Epic, and Sunday is the West Coast Gravel. They're only about 15 miles apart, so you do a kind of a double weekend.
Are you doing both?
I have not signed up because the weather is fucking kind of iffy. Actually,
but you're one of those people that like.
I am exactly who you're talking about.
But like, that's the great thing is like, if the price was double, you probably wouldn't bat an eye at.
I wouldn't bat an eye.
Which is like, there's more money in the promoter's pocket. Like to me, I just don't see a problem with like this. You push that price until it starts to affect people,
right?
And you can probably see that if you have enough events that you're promoting, you're like, okay, well, we'll try it with this one. We'll keep going up until you see the numbers slide.
The weather actually doesn't look too bad, and I'm probably going to go.
And you're just gonna spend the weekend in your van?
Yeah, I'll just sleep in the van.
Okay.
That's got to be a little bit tough having two races that are somewhat close to each other, but just the logistics of it. Is that tough for him, or does he have it down?
No, I think it makes it easier for him because he has a double race weekend.
Okay.
And most people that go down do both races.
And that was my next question is he capitating his potential race attendance for one of the races? If he just pushed it out one more week, would you get more attendance?
No, I don't think so, because then you're conflicting with other races on the Ober calendar, and this is the Oregon Coast Gravel weekend. So,
well, then why doesn't he put one on Friday and just call it a little mini stage race?
That's a good question. Yeah.
There you go.
Gravel festival.
Yeah.
Dirt crit. Day one dirt crit.
Yeah, I've always thought that those would be kind of fun. So
Paul and I talked about that.
Yeah.
Beach crit.
Crazy.
All
right.
Wait, one last. I have two more one last things.
I've got I was going to do my one last thing and then kick it over to Camryn. But let's have Camryn go first.
Okay.
I'll finish the things up.
One last thing. Go ride your bike.
There it is.
Don't stop buying stuff. Actually, that's a bad thing
Don't
to
stop
say.
believing.
Buy stuff from the Dialed Cycling Lab. But just go ride your bike more.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. If you have a crappy cruiser bike, go ride it. Go find a friend. Go get your kid. Go ride your bike.
Was it
bring your cruiser to the Friday night ride? Foghat.
Those are starting up soon. We're going to be doing them on Fridays starting next week if the weather permits. So crazy. It's almost here. Actually, I take that back. Friday's this week. So this week is May. Sorry, I'm a week behind.
This Friday.
Yes, it could be even this Friday. That could have been my one last thing, but I'll let Camryn take credit for that. But anyway, to your point, was it buy less upgrades and ride up more upgrades?
Yeah, just ride your bike more. Yeah.
All right, my one last thing is happy birthday, Lance.
I can't even hear that.
He's got his headphones off right now. Anyway, just wanted to wish you happy birthday, buddy. It's kind of crazy that you are 55.
55.
And the first, I think you came on the podcast. Was it right around your birthday? I think you had just turned 47. So
yeah, I was 47.
We're all getting old.
Yeah,
yeah, you guys are.
That's true. Cool. All right, we do appreciate everybody listening. We will be back next week with another one of these. And until then, bye for now.
We've all heard of mansplaining, but allow me to introduce you to she-laborating.
Oh, no.
It is when you ask a woman a very, very simple question and she sits you down and gives you a 30-minute answer.
Somebody commented and said, yes, this includes 60% backstory content about individuals you neither know or care about. Somebody said, did you just mansplain she-laborating to me? This is why we have so many problems.